This is Cult Confessionals. I'm just having a little show here today, and today would you like to introduce yourself, Walker?
Yeah, my name is Walker Spaulding.
So what are you doing on campus, like your stuff with a certain RSO that we know about?
A certain RSO, I personally, my favorite RSO on campus. I am one of the executive producers for Alt.News 2646. It's a documentary magazine style television show, kind of akin to Adult Swim, but specifically for SIU. I've been a part of the group for 2 years, half a semester as a crew member, a semester as a staff member, and now I'm on my second semester as executive producer.
What kind of media and kind of art are you looking to create currently?
Yeah, so when I first came to the college, I was dead set on just movies. Solely, I just want to make film. But in my time just being around here, I've also really gained an appreciation for the live music scene in the area. I've never really had that up in Central Illinois, where there were concerts just in people's backyards every other weekend. And I remember the first couple that I went to, and it did something. I don't know what it did, but it did something. And since then, I've been really pushing to make my own music and try to make my own mark on the music scene here, because it really is just a super gorgeous environment. Very loving.
All right. And when did you say you came to SIU?
I came to SIU, I believe I graduated high school in 2019, so it was 2021.
2021?
Yeah.
All right. So is it that point where you picked up live music and the love for it and just...
Yeah, really in the fall time, where you had your bonfires outside, and it was so addicting. I don't know, there's some kind of magic to it that you can't really put a finger on it. And that sounds pretentious as all hell, but yeah.
Are there any projects you're working on with that currently, or...
Yeah, so I'm currently working with Marcus Lepore, I believe is his last name, from Plaza Records. I'm working on a 5 to 6 song EP for my band Homestretch that I put together back in December after some of my other band members had to leave because of study abroad. But I'm really excited for this new project. It's pushing me to write in a way that I never really have before, and I'm really loving the sound. And I feel like I'm psyching myself out, because I feel like I shouldn't enjoy what I play this much, So
So where would you say that you generally do a lot of your creating, like your creative process? Where does that take place?
So I would say there are two pretty big hubs. Number one, when I'm going to work on music, is absolutely my room at home, because I've got a really sweet setup with just a drum kit and an amp right next to each other. So it's as simple as plugging my bass in, and I can work for hours. It's excellent. But I would say more creative on the cinema side, that would be our loft area for Alt.News 2646 in the SIU Comms building, just because there's so much cool art. Being in there makes me feel like I just need to create. I need to add something to this room. I need to add something to this show. It really gets the gears going. So if I'm ever in a rut, I'll just come to the loft and hang out for a little bit. Typically, I think of something.
So would you say it's that kind of creative environment that would get you working and thinking of new things to do?
Well, yeah, because not only for the atmosphere, but more often than not, we always have Alt.News staff in or out of the loft. So if I'm ever struggling with an idea, or I just need help getting in the right direction, there's always people there, especially the Alt.News crew. We're just a big hub of creative, cool people, and it's intoxicating. It's awesome.
That's great. So between doing cinema and music, is there anyone in particular that in the future you'd like to work with?
Well, outside of all of the classmates that I'm graduating with and that I've met through SIU, because I'd always love to do another project with the homies. I don't know. I think the first thing that comes to mind is like, if I was playing big shows, I'd love to go on tour with a band like Royal Blood or Death from Above, 1979. Both bands were really influential to me and are just really like a roundhouse kick to the face. I love it. Um, but in terms of cinema, I'd say if I was to work with anyone, I think I would probably be the most comfortable working with Terrence Malick. Um, Not that I feel like I'm on his level in any way because he is an experienced art house filmmaker, but I think it'd be fun to maybe study underneath him and kind of get into his process because a lot of the work that I've done, I've had a lot of professors kind of make the comment that I'm kind of pushing more towards this his like style of directing, which is very much like not go with the flow, but like letting shots breathe and like really focusing on things that are important to you as a filmmaker, not necessarily in every story or I don't know. Yeah, just things that you really care about because I feel like that comes out so beautifully, like when it's done right, like the way you look at things.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, your professors have definitely given you some idea of your creative pathway and your process. Is there anything in particular that, if you weren't at SIU, you'd feel like you would have missed?
Oh, Sloane. Literally, Alt.News.
Alt.News.
Alt.News was the reason I came to SIU. Because I had a couple options up in the air, like one school in Wisconsin, one in Central Illinois. But I remember when I toured and I first saw the loft, I was like, this is like everything I want to be doing. Like you don't see that at other colleges. Like maybe there is like a group out there that does similar stuff, but I mean, Alt.News would just. I remember exploring the YouTube channel and spending hours on there whenever I was going to community college, just thinking about how cool it would be like to be a part of that group and make that content that's like goofy or like sometimes a little more just on the aesthetic side. It can be whatever you want, and that I think was what was so appealing to me because I don't know, everyone gets ideas that are kind of hard to run with, but with Alt.News, like they really help you to push and get that idea done the way it should be, the way it deserves to be.
Is there a particular project with Alt.News or howsoever you'd think of it they'd say is one of your just general favorites that between making or just having it fully produced?
Oh yeah. There was a film I did in community college called Dawn. It was like a little fake documentary that I did. Like it was during COVID, and I had my mom play a woman named Dawn who believed she birthed the sun. Sounds really wacky, but I showed the former EP that whenever I had first moved down. And I remember like the look on her face. Hannah Friedman, she said something like, "Dude, can we like do something like this for the episode?" And I was all for it. We pretty much went at it like a revamped, bigger production quality version of the original story. And I was able to write like a little more in for Dawn, and I even wrote like a son in for her, like a kid, not the actual
Yeah.
son, But it was just a really interesting like exercise and feels like such a growth marker for me, like for everything I've done here, because it's hard. Like it really is hard when you're working on a lot of stuff to like see that growth. But because I have that original short and then the piece that I did for Alt.News, the adaptation, I love looking at both of those and just seeing like how far I've come because of Alt.News. And that project was really cool to make. Way to wake up really early. Way to wake up real friggin' early. And I think I was late. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So, just Alt News was able to perpetuate it and just give you just that change that you wanted to see in the art?
Oh yeah. Not that I wasn't getting that from my classes, but because Alt.News is so hands-on and it's so welcoming to new members, you can kind of just get in there and start working. And that, to me, was so much more valuable than, I don't know, some of the other things I learned at this school, but there was a lot of really cool theory, too. I don't regret any of that.
So, being in Carbondale for a decent while now, is there any place that is most memorable in your mind where maybe you shot on location, or maybe a place that you specifically performed, or you can really give me a list if there's nothing that pops out immediately?
I'd say, I don't want to say a bar because that makes me sound like a college student, but if I was to pick a place that holds a really, really excellent memory, it'd have to be PK's. Not because I've been there frequently, and I don't know why I haven't. They have excellent lunch specials. But I was invited on to play a set with the band Bunny and this other band Zantigo from St. Louis. And this was when I was with my band Blush in the last fall. We had been practicing quite a bit, had a few gigs before that, but this was our first booked gig, and it was so awesome. Like, I can't put it into words, but I know that it felt like the best I've ever played because of just the environment, the lights, the crowd. It was just indescribable. And I feel bad every time I go to play because I'll get so into it that it's almost like you black out. And then as soon as the song is over, it's like, oh shit, I just did that. So yeah, PK's in Carbondale because I got to play with some of my best friends, see some of my best friends, and really do what I love.
So, I know Alt.News is coming up for the next episode of season 24.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you've been thinking of that you'd like to talk about currently?
This might be the one where you stump me, Sloane.
Oh.
I've been in a little creative rut with Alt.News recently. I think I need some loft time, but I've always wanted to do something with claymation, like some kind of face melting, or something that just I like a good vibe switch. Mm-hmm. So I think my mind's kind of been trying to figure out what's something creepy that's also rad. Crad? Yeah, kind of like cranch.
We're starting the word crad here.
I think creepy and rad would be the direction I want to take my next piece that I do for the group. But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe this is all a ruse and I have everything planned and I'm just full of surprises.
It's Walker's top secret file. That's what they're keeping in Area 51, guys.
Right. Yeah. We actually don't want to storm Area 51, guys.
To kind of bring it all back to SIU in general,
Mm-hmm.
From a class standpoint, what are just some of the ideas that you feel have really stuck from taking different classes that really appeal to your style of art?
I'd say the most pertinent class to really kind of affect the way I see what I make was from last semester. It was a theory class that I think I might have signed up for the wrong one, but I went to it anyways, and it was about Werner Herzog and just his filmography. And at first, the class is oh man, Werner Herzog's this crazy guy, he's doing all this crazy stuff. But I felt myself get kind of annoyed because he would incorporate these not lies, but these truths that he would write into these people's stories that he was covering. He would follow someone's story that he found significant and documented, while also inputting a few elements of his own, which he would call ecstatic truth. And at first, I couldn't see any point to it, because it's like, I mean, you look at it, it's like, okay, obviously that's fake. Like, I can tell that was inputted. It's not necessary. And that's how I felt for a good majority of the class. But I think the thing I really took away from that class, also shout out to Mike Phillips, he teaches excellent classes. The thing I took away the most was filming the way you see, because it's so easy to get caught up in all the technicals that you have to cover whenever you are on a film set, and it's hard. It's just something that takes time, but really being able to understand how you see is the best way you can translate those stories that you see or like picture in your head or write out. It's the best way to translate it to video, in my personal opinion. And I feel like it's helped me be a little more successful when I needed to be. And so I stick by it now. Very thankful for that class. It was awesome. Shout out to Werner Herzog and Mike Phillips.
So, kind of a wrap question, but I'll let you get some more things to say in the end. Could you expand a bit on the way you see and how your process is in that? Your particular vision when you are getting into the process of making something?
Yeah. So, it's hard to like pinpoint where an idea will come from for me. And sometimes it's just kind of like a joke or a thought. I think for the film I made my second year of community college, or no, first year, was called Diagnostic. And that all came from a joke that I used to say. So my name's obviously Walker. Like, I'm in. I hope I don't ever break my legs and just like have to use crutches, or like, you know, people have to call me Walker and I can't, kind of deal. And so I thought on that, and it spawned into a script about someone trying to find faith when they've lost all hope. And I'm just now realizing I got hella sidetracked. Let me talk about the way you see thing. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right.
So the way I see, the way I view it, it's just kind of like this feeling I get, like whenever I'm behind a camera or I see something like with my own eyes that like catches my attention.
Yeah.
And I really like to highlight things that I feel like when I'm really having a hard time, I see things and I appreciate their beauty, which sounds so art student, but really, there are some things that you can just kind of like look at and take a deep breath, and you can feel that deep breath in the camera whenever you're like also watching. Like, it almost feels relaxing. And I don't know, if I don't get that feeling from what I'm shooting, it doesn't feel right. Like, it almost clicks. This is how I describe it to anyone that's asked me. It's just, if you aren't satisfied with the shot, like, you have to like keep working with it until you are satisfied. You shouldn't settle, because I mean, honestly, the amount of people that put work into projects, the amount of work you yourself as a director will put into a project, no matter what, it's not worth not getting what you want. As long as no lives are in danger, then maybe, I don't know if people are throwing knives or working with anything crazy or pyrotechnics, but yeah, just really don't settle.
Thank you very much for coming in and talking with me. Is there anything that you'd like to say in general? Maybe some advice or anything that you just like to leave off about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'd say my biggest piece of advice, and I'm a hypocrite for this because it's definitely bogged me down more than once, is don't get caught up in technicals. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, your audio is important, your camera work is important, having a crew is important, but at the end of the day, it's all about that log line, baby. You got to remember why you were making the project in the first place, what the goal is, why it's important to you, and then you'll get some good shit.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Walker, for joining me for the first episode of Cult Confessionals. Whoa! All right. So this has been Cult Confessionals with Sloane McCraw on Cult of Media. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope everyone has a cultish day.